Blessing, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I am too, because I am so impressed with the work that you have been doing. And I think it would be remiss if we did not start our conversation talking about the horrific events that happened, that took place in Texas. You live in Texas.
Mhm.
So not only is this close to home for you geographically, but obviously, given what you spend your time doing every day, and the audience that you serve, this is a hot topic. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you are hearing from women about what happened in Texas this week?
First of all, what happened shouldn't have happened. What happened was the worst nightmare of any parent. And it's, I still cannot, I still cannot process what happened to the best way possible. I can't. Like, you can't find an avenue to process what happened. What happened was
Mhm.
horrific. It shouldn't have happened in a nation where our children should have been protected. In a nation where we have, vast amount of resources, vast amount of money, and we have people that we elect, like we elect them, right, to protect us, to serve us, and they have held us hostage, right? We have, a few people in politics who have held children and women hostage, and we're starting to see more and more. We continue to see the repercussions, and we're hearing from our moms. Our moms are full of rage. Rage. I have never seen anything like this before.
Mhm.
Moms are exhausted. We've already been stressed. Think about it. 41% increase in childcare costs. Formula shortages. We are still in a formula shortage. We still have a formula shortage crisis in this country.
Mhm.
We've not had time to process what happened in Buffalo, New York. And
Mhm.
here we are again. And
Mhm.
so at what point do we all say this is enough?
Mhm.
And I have done a lot of work even before this, through the care force. I co-founded the care force. I co-founded the Chamber of Mothers, and every now and then we talk about this, about
Mhm.
why is this still happening, and how can we get our leaders to pay attention. And a lot of them are not paying attention because, quite frankly, we need to be real. They are being bribed. They are being bribed by the powers, to be, whether it's the NRA or any other type of organizations that are holding us hostage.
Mhm.
And now we are sending our children to war.
Mhm.
Because how do you explain to a 4-year-old that you're going to be stuffed into this closet with 25 other kids so that when a shooter comes in, you better not move a nerve? You
Yeah.
better not move a nerve, because that will be the end of you.
Yes. Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I posted about this earlier in the week. Um, back in 2012, when Sandy Hook happened, at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, and we know that 20 children and 6 adults were killed there. Uh, my children were too young to understand what that all meant and what was going on. But I'll tell you what, they were learning as little itty bitty kids how to take cover and what to do. And at that point, they called, because the kids were so little, they said, oh, if a bandit walks into the school, you need to know to go hide over here in this closet. And this is what you do. This is what they were teaching them. Now, fast forward 10 years, my kids are teenagers and they are mad. They are angry that here they are 10 years later, 10 years of having to worry in the back of your mind that somebody could come into your school and you have to go duck for cover or find cover. They feel like this is what is going on in this world, that we have had 10 years to solve this and the adults haven't solved it. So they staged a walkout. My kids, their school are we I live in New Jersey, and our school system, the kids in the school system staged a walkout yesterday, and they all got up and they walked out and they're trying to protest. But you're telling me the moms are frustrated, the kids are frustrated. What do you think it's going to what do you think it's going to take from moms or from adults, from the adults, let's talk about the adults at this point, to try and affect some change?
Well, I think that it's so hard to bring about change when we live in a society that values money more than people. You know, we've talked about, there's been a lot of talk about banning things lately, right? Whether it's, you know, banning abortion, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or banning our rights to even purchase a plan B. But nobody wants to talk about banning guns. And
Mhm.
so what is it about guns
Mhm.
that makes it okay to substitute the lives of our children
Mhm.
for it?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are we afraid of?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that is the what are we afraid of? What is America running away from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think they need to explain that to us. They need to explain that to women. They need to explain that to these children.
Mhm.
What they are terrified about.
Mhm.
um, why they can't sleep at night without hugging their guns. I think we need to find out what exactly that is. So there needs to be a lot of we are demanding. Moms are demanding solutions. Moms are demanding answers. And
Yeah.
I think it's not enough anymore for you for somebody to come to us and say, and you can already see it. You see responses about,
Mhm.
just make it one door. We've run out. They've ran out of responses,
Yeah.
and so now they're just throwing anything out there.
Mhm.
And I think this is where, as women and as adults, we need to start really thinking about it. I actually told a few of my friends, and I'm going to just be honest with you, I shuttle between Lagos and Houston. And my kids are actually in Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm going to tell you why. There are two reasons. And I'm writing an article about this in a Time magazine. There are two reasons. One is the fact that childcare is expensive in this country. And the
Mhm.
other is it's not safe. And I'm Black. I have four Black kids.
Mhm.
I can
Mhm.
no longer justify living in America. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm. Mhm.
And so, we talk about, okay, where do the rest of us that have nowhere to go, where do we turn? And so
Right.
we need to fight for change. We need to demand for change. And change is only going to happen by us sharing our experiences. We all need to start sharing our experiences. And, we have a lot of amazing influencers that
Mhm.
are doing amazing things. And I
Mhm.
want us to start thinking about using our power and our influence to drive change.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can't, we can't TikTok and do reels, about so many other amazing things, and not really drive action with some of those, that power and that influence that we have. And there
Yeah.
was an article that talked about mom influencers, and and why aren't we seeing more from them? And I think that I want to see more. No
Yes.
offense, the following day, right? I saw, a couple of other TikToks or reels about, people just jumping on couches and making fun of each other. And I'm like, really? This is the content we're creating? Because
Mhm.
I would have loved to see us share our collective stories about our
Yes.
kids stuck in cupboards, our
Mhm.
kids, being told to jump through fences,
Mhm.
about our
Mhm.
kids being told to just, to crawl under the toilet seats.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are the stories I want to see right now.
Yeah.
You know,
So
so those are the issues.
so your advice then for women who want to take some action, it would be use your voice. Use your voice, use your platforms. And everyone has a voice. Everyone has a voice. You don't have to be somebody who has hundreds of thousands or millions of followers.
Absolutely. I mean, we can all talk about this. If you are feeling that rage, what is stopping you?
Yeah.
What do we stand to lose? What are they losing our kids?
Yep. Yep.
If you're gonna lose a brand partner, then then they weren't, then so be it. I mean,
Yes.
what are they losing our kids?
Yeah.
It's no longer making any kind of sense. And
Mhm.
so the only way forward is that we all show up and talk about this.
Yeah.
and use our voices and scream from the depth of our lungs that this is no longer okay. We're no longer going to take this. We will not take it lying down. We will not take this standing up. We will fight until you set our children free.
Mm. I love that. Now let's talk a little bit more broadly. Take a step back. We got very focused in on
You
this
got me into it, Alisa. You got me into it.
No, and that is, listen, this is what's happening right now. And this is what's top of mind for moms. I mean, this is the audience that you have access to and you work with day to day. So let's talk about then what experiences actually inspired you to start Mother Honestly. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I started Mother Honestly after my second child. My first is 13 now, and my second is now 4. And I started it about, so Mother Honestly is about 3.5 year old. And when I started it, it was more on a post-it note. I was just wondering why I had no time left after
Mm,
working and
mm,
taking care of my baby and the 8 year old at the time or 9 year old. I had no more time. And I was like, this is not
mhm,
making sense. How are women doing this? And I
mhm,
started reaching out to my friends. A lot of them, MBA from Harvard, or they are, now stay at home parents. And I said, why are you staying home with your degrees? Like, this is crazy.
mhm,
And they're like, well, try having 3 kids, right? Try having three
mhm,
kids and try at the same time running a business or going up the career ladder. And I said, okay,
mhm.
let's talk about it. And
Yeah.
so I interviewed, and my background is in chemical engineering. So I'm very data focused. So I
Mhm,
started interviewing, I started calling women. So I would just call them and say, hey, why are you home today? And the baby's sick, so I have to call the day. I have to take the day off. And I would call another mom, and she would say, we just couldn't make it make sense. My salary was $6,000. It cost $6,000 for the kids daycare. It just made sense for me to stay home. And so these stories started informing my decision around, wow, like we need to start thinking about how to really support parents, especially ambitious women, right? Because these women I was speaking to were really ambitious people. We all went to school together, all doing great things, and then suddenly they're dropping off like flies off of the workforce. And
mm,
so, more honestly, at that time, then became this place where we were operating at the intersection of work and family. So, what will it take to effectively combine work and family? So that was really what it
mhm,
became. And then now we are sort of transitioning into, we can no longer continue to start. What I found was that we were talking to women and we were saying, why didn't you try this? Why didn't you try that? Why didn't you, speak to your partner? Why didn't you, practice some, sharing of the workload and doing X, Y, and Z? So we were telling women to do fix all of these things. And one day I just realized, I woke up and I said, you know what? This is no longer making sense, right?
mm,
Because our moms at that point were exhausted. We realized that who we really need to be talking about if we want real change is the workplace. Who
mhm,
we really need to be talking about if we want real change is our society. And the
mhm,
third person we need to be talking to is the partners. And
mhm.
so we realized that we have been sort of solving this problem backwards,
Yep.
right? We are talking to ourselves, oh, come over to the Modern Honesty Conference, really? Where we talk about and complain about how things are not going well. And then, we are going straight back, right, to those situations and to those environments. So we are now, more of a B2B2C company where we are working with employers. We're creating solutions that allows employers to support their caregiving employees. 8 out of 10 employees are caregivers. So what does that tell us? And we are now taking care of those people
Mhm,
because, right, we're not taking care of our employees because, we can. And
mhm,
now, as you've seen the labor shortage, right? We've heard about the great resignation, the great reshuffle, the great reawakening, the greats. We've seen all of those things. And we now know that employees, especially parents, are demanding a better quality of life. You can no
mhm,
longer get away with here's the salary and that's it, right? You
mhm.
now need to offer more. So we are working with employers. What are the things that you can offer parents? What are the things that you can offer employees? And oh, by the way, here's our solution, right? And here's how we do that together. So we are starting to see, right, a lot of companies that are eager to support their caregivers. And so that's what we do now.
I love that. And I love that you took a step back and said, we're going to the people who are the most overwhelmed, who have the most on their plate, and saying, hey, here's something else that you can do. Right. And that's overwhelming. And of course women want it to change, but they can't do it on their own. And as you've said, so I love that you have, as an organization, started to have these relationships with the employers, because that is where we can affect. And I'm curious to hear, you've been doing this, you said, since your second was born, about 4 years,
Mhm.
right? So about 4
Mhm.
or so years ago.
Correct.
We've been living with COVID for 2 plus. Have you seen a difference in how employers reacted to your message, or would have reacted to your message 4 years ago, to how they are thinking about it now? Has there been a change?
There's been a change. It's not enough. It's
Mm,
a very slow change. So
mm,
what we are seeing is employers now recognize that they need to do more.
mhm,
But what is also strange is that they want to do more, but they don't know where to start.
mhm,
And they don't know where to start because they're not asking the right questions. They're not asking their employees what their employees truly need. And I think
mhm,
because they're not taking bold steps, they are looking at the same solution that they have, and they are not, they're not taking innovative steps, right, to solve those
mm,
problems. So
yeah.
those are some of the things that we're seeing.
Mhm,
But in the larger scheme of things, employers are starting to realize that we got to differentiate ourselves, right? Most companies are offering healthcare. Most companies are offering, dental, insurance. And so, if you really want to differentiate yourself, you got to offer more. And I
mhm,
tell all employers, offer childcare. Women,
mhm.
work needs women, right?
Yes,
And if we know
yes.
that work needs women, we also know that women need childcare.
Mhm,
So we can't, if we are truly, serious about solving the labor shortage crisis, we need to think about childcare as a solution.
yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, for employers to really think about other caregivers, right? It's not just moms. We
Yes.
have, we have people that have aunts and uncles and parents that they care about and they care
Mhm,
for, that may be in a nursing home, or they have a sick partner. And so
yes.
I think that employers have not forced themselves to really think about the fact that a lot of employees are caregivers.
Yeah.
Everyone has something they care about, even if it's a pet, unless you're an island. And we know that caregiving responsibilities continue to affect how people work.
Yeah.
Anyone can call you right now and be like, "Oh, your dad is in the hospital." So what do you do?
Yeah.
Or it's time to pick up your child. So what do you
Yeah.
do?
Right.
So these are the things that employers need to start forcing themselves to really think about when it comes to to supporting employees in the workplace and at home.
Well, and I love that. I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because I do think it's really important to also recognize that at different stages of our lives as women, we are caregivers to different types of people. It's not just, as you said, it's not just that I'm a mom and I'm a caregiver to my children. At a certain point, you could become a caregiver, still working, by the way, in the workforce, to
Mhm.
parents, or to a spouse. I mean, it is a very broad period of time where women could be in a position where they have to be caregivers.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what we're starting to see. Is our moms are growing. Millennial mothers are basically becoming. They're taking care of their younger children, and they are now also taking care of teenagers, and at the
Mhm,
same time, they are taking care of growing parents. So we're
mm,
starting to see. I mean, I have a 13-year-old and I have a 7-month-old. It's a
mhm,
different. You got to drop one child off at soccer and the other child off at daycare,
mhm,
right? And
mm,
I also have a parent that needs some medical attention or needs my support. So we
yes.
need to make it easier for
Mhm,
employees, women, men, caregivers. We need to make it easier for them to work. And I think that it goes beyond just a salary or a paycheck. It really
Mhm.
becomes, how do we care? And I think that a lot of companies think that they don't have a duty of care, right? We think that it's just for doctors and for lawyers. But I think as employers, we have a duty to care for our employees. And it doesn't mean that, you give them, everything, right? You can't subsidize everything, but you
Right.
can subsidize something
Yeah.
that they care about and give them that agency and choice. That's one of the things that we've been talking about at MH is give employees the agency and choice to
Yeah.
pick what is important to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I see a lot of tech companies. I'm like, we should be solving this problem. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If you want more people in the workforce, we need to solve this problem.
Right. Well, because as you said, the great resignation, what is it? 5 million women have left the workforce
Absolutely.
over the last 2 years of the pandemic. And a lot of that is not by choice, it's by necessity. That it's
It's by
not like, oh, I
necessity.
want to. It's just I can't. And as you said, childcare costs have gone up so significantly. So it becomes almost untenable to actually have a job. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's a lot that I know that needs to change as we've talked about. Is there anything that you've seen over the last period of time? I don't know, maybe it's the last year or so, that gives you hope that things can change in a positive direction?
Oh, absolutely. I see hope everywhere. I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's really, really hard for us to see it right now, for all the reasons that we've talked about, whether it's the lack of childcare, the lack of paid leave, the lack of, real and sensible gun, control measures in this country. Um,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that are going wrong, but I also see, I also can see a silver bulb. I can see, women, and I can see men, and I can see employers, speaking up. Oh, you can see, I think, when we had this Roe v. Wade, where some companies said, we will pay for our employees to go out of the, out of state, right, to go get
Mhm.
an abortion if they need to. So
Yes.
we are starting to see that, there's a lot of hope out there, um, and I hope that we can make space for those things to actually play out, right?
Yeah.
Giving
Mhm.
ourselves space, as moms, as influencers, to say, we're going to speak up. We're going to speak up about this. And the more we speak up, the more hope we can
Right.
share to other
Yeah.
people.
So you and I both are big believers in the value of community. You have this amazing community you've built with Mother Honestly. Can you talk about just some ways that women in your community are actually helping one another? Because it is such a powerful thing when women get together.
Absolutely. I mean, so one of the things, we actually have a very, I call it a loose connection. And there's a reason for that. Our community is closer on social media actually than anywhere else.
Mhm.
And then within our community itself, what we do is actually take care of our moms. Like, don't,
Mm.
a lot of them. So we have tools, we have resources, and
Mhm.
most people don't even know, right? Because they're too
Mm.
busy in
Mhm.
between. So I just woke up one day and I said, wow, like, we create all these tools and no one is using it. What's
Mhm.
going on?
Mhm.
So one of the things that we've done is create a care concierge team. So our care concierge team actually calls, how are you doing? What can we help you with? Here's some of the toolkits. We can help you put it together. Do you need us to help you research anything around childcare? Anything
Mm.
that you need. So we offer 2 hours of concierge services to our members, and those are the ways that we're helping them out. We're like,
Mm.
please don't help us out, we will help you out. In addition to that, our members come together. We come together once a month, so just like you and I chatting, we all come together and we talk about all of the different challenges that we're facing, and we
Mm.
crowdsource solutions.
Mhm.
So last month, this month obviously was all around our mental health challenges.
Mhm.
Last month we talked about our career challenges and what does
Mhm.
that look like, and how can we get our partners to be more involved. So we come together around different topics every month, and that really allows us to stay focused on
Mhm.
the type of challenges, those specific challenges, because a lot of time you don't even know, you because there's so much happening. You're like, "Ooh, I never thought about that. I might have a mental health challenge." And so
Mhm.
as we start digging into it, moms are bawling their eyes off because they're like,
Mhm.
I had no idea. I have been snapping at my kids. for
Mhm.
the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And, and wow, that's not okay. Right. And that's because I haven't addressed this. We
Mhm.
also check in. So we send a link. It's actually called momcheck.in. So mom check in. And we send it to our moms every week. We remind them. And it's really just, to talk about, because a lot of times we spend a lot of time talking about the problems. And mom check-in is really to talk about what brought you joy this week, right? What brought you joy? What are you most excited about for your family and in
Yeah.
your work? And we
Mhm.
find that gets, there was even, I think one of the question is also like, where do you think you could make, you can make an improvement, right? As a mother. And, some moms will say, oh, I snapped at my kids today. I shouldn't have done that. Right. But just sharing that with someone, right, just releases you from that guilt. And
Yes.
it gives you permission to go back and restore that relationship.
Mhm.
So those are the ways that we connect with our moms, and they also connect with each other. Um,
I love that you are doing that. I love the idea of the mom check-in. And no, it's interesting. We recently completed a study and we asked women what were, to tell us how they were feeling. Number one emotion was tired. Number one emotion ahead of
Believe it.
anything else. Ahead and during COVID, when COVID started, uncertainty was the number one emotion. They're not uncertain anymore. They're tired. And maybe they're tired of being uncertain, but they are just tired. Women, as you know, as you said, they're just
Everything's
feeling
exhausted.
exhausted. Yes. Women are
It's
feeling
exhaustion.
exhausted.
It's exhaustion. It's beyond. I mean, I actually believe that women are beyond burned out.
Yes.
I feel like we have been stretched beyond limit,
Yes.
and it's starting to show. It's starting to show. You see a lot of us, just one thing or the other. I see women popping pills.
Mhm.
I see women, with their hair falling out from
Mhm.
stress.
Mhm.
I see women showing up to work saying, I can't work today
Mhm. Mhm.
because I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some women said I've actually stopped having sex. It's there's no point. And
Yeah.
I'm already exhausted.
Mhm.
So these are the things
Yeah.
um, that really forces you to really think about, what are we doing to women?
Yeah.
What are we
Well,
doing
and
to women?
what's interesting, I was going to just say that, and another thing that we learned in that same study is that the thing that women said that most negatively impacted their lives during COVID was their social life and that lack of connection. And so that's why I love what you're saying you're doing in your community, which is connecting women and
Mm,
checking in and giving them that sense of community,
absolutely.
because it's amazing how that can be such an antidote to people who are feeling
Mhm.
overwhelmed, that isolation, right? We're human beings, we're not meant to be isolated. And I think that the fact that Mother Honestly is giving women a chance to be with one another, even if it's virtually, to check in with one another is a gift. It's a gift for them in terms
Absolutely.
of their mental well-being. So, all right, my last question for you. What would be the one thing you would recommend women could do to help their mental well-being?
I honestly think that women need to, first of all, just acknowledge that it's too much.
Mhm.
Everything is too much. And you're not imagining how ridiculously exhausting it is. It is exhausting to power a family
Mhm.
and have a career and be all the things, whether it's a daughter, a wife, a sister, a mom, and be all of that. It's not it's a lot. So acknowledge that first. And in terms of what we can do for our mental well-being, I think the biggest thing is really to reduce.
Mm.
Reduce the expectation that you're placing on yourself. Reduce the amount of work that you're doing. I have just decided that things can be messy, and that's fine as long as no child is harmed.
Mhm.
um, reduce.
Mhm.
And lastly, I say get a partner that can actually do the work.
Mhm.
It's no longer an excuse. I'm tired. I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care if your husband is. I married the most traditional man, and he's washing bathrooms and he's bathing our kids. You cannot run your home yourself.
Yeah.
If you have a partner, if you've been blessed to have a partner right now, and not to say that if you don't have a partner, you're not blessed, but if you have a partner that can actually lift some of the load,
Mhm.
please make sure they are actually lifting their own fair share.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so tired of seeing women, handling drop off, pick up, cooking, cleaning, bathing, laundry, doing everything, and then we wonder why, women are not being considered.
Yeah.
You need to demand what you need. I mean, we can see it everywhere. Women and children are not considered in our society,
Yeah.
and it starts with men getting away with a lot of these things at home.
Yeah.
And so there's no more excuses.
Mhm.
You can actually have that conversation. And if that conversation is still not going anywhere, then you would have the permission to do whatever you need to do to preserve your mental health.
Yeah. Well, Blessing, thank you for spending this time with us today. Really appreciate your insights and advice. What is the best way for people to follow what you're doing at Mother Honestly?
Motherhonestly.com. And I'm also on social media, Blessing Adesiyan. So find me. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm trying to be on Twitter, y'all. I'm really trying. Um, it's hard. It's hard to try to maintain a lot of different platforms. But I'm on there, and I am just as feisty in real life as I am on social media. So take me as you find me.